Today we're going to take a look at how we can take the Neve theme and how we can create a donation-based website, connect it up to Stripe and handle all those sides of things. We're going to be using a free plugin alongside Neve Pro, who have kindly sponsored this video, but as always, there's going to be no opinions expressed. I'm simply going to demonstrate how you can use this for yourself and show you some of the options that are available. Okay, so let's get started. I've already searched for the Neve theme, and all we're going to do is we're going to select to install this. Let's choose to activate it, and we now have the free Neve theme installed. Before we go any further though, we're going to upload the Pro plugin to open up the additional options here and get started. So let's come over into the plugin section, choose to upload a plugin and choose our file. We'll install the Neve Pro plugin and click install now. We'll activate it. So all you need to do is pop in your Neve Pro license, activate that, and then you have access to all of the features. So let's take a quick look at how we get our site up and running super quickly. What we're going to do is we're going to use the starter sites option. So let's click to insert that. We'll install and activate that particular plugin. This will then take us into the starter site section where we can filter based upon the different types of designs. So all the free options, if you are only using the free version, you can see which ones you have access to: business, education, e-commerce, and so on. You also notice at the top, we have the option to switch between the native Gutenberg function, and also if you want to use Elementor, you can choose that from here and you'll get some additional options available to you. For example, let's choose the non-profit option. You can choose between, like I say, Elementor or Gutenberg. Let's leave Elementor because I want to show you some of the other things you have there as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose this non-profit option. This will then kind of take us into a wizard where we can customize this, the colors and so on. You can still go in and customize every aspect of this afterwards. This is kind of like your starting point. So from here, you can upload your logo if you want to. I'll stick with what we've already got here. We've got some color palettes we can pick from. So this is the default color palette. We can click to take a look at some alternatives. Let's stick with the original one. Then you've got different typography options. So we can switch between different types of typography. Some nice match pairs we can pick and choose from. Find one that you like. I'm going to go for something like this, a nice sort of serif font. We'll click continue. And this will give us a set of options then for things that have to be installed and things we can choose to install on top of the default options. So image optimization, caching, and e-commerce, for example. We'll choose the e-commerce option because we want to take advantage of this donate function. And we'll click import site. We'll say start import. And that will now import everything for us, set the site up and have all the pages and content created. There we go. After a moment or two, everything has finished. You can tell us a bit about yourself if you want to, but I'm going to say skip and view the website. So that now has created everything for us. All the content is inserted in here and we are good to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the dashboard. And because we chose the option to accept payments with the e-commerce and the Stripe integration, we're now presented with the Stripe integration setup. This is part of the free plugin that I said about, which is called WP Full Pay. This allows you to connect to Stripe and take payments, donations, and other things. So what we're going to need to do is connect everything up. Now, first and most importantly is you are going to need to either have a Stripe account or you need to set a Stripe account up as part of this overall process. I've already got one created, so I'm going to go through connecting everything up. So you'll see it gives us a bit of information. We can, if we want to, close and exit out of this setup wizard, but we're going to say we want to connect it with Stripe. So let's choose connect. That will then take us over into this connection setup. Now, because we want to set this up on a test environment, this isn't going to be live in this example, and you should always test things out in a sandbox environment before you even go ahead and make this live. What we can do is we can say we're using test account to test data. We'll skip this form. That will then take us to the next stage where we can still go through and connect everything up. So we are connecting to Stripe, but we're connecting it with a test sandbox account. You can push this over to live once you've confirmed all your details and everything. And like I say, if you have a account already with Stripe, you can then make it live when you're ready anyway. So all we need to do is go through and configure everything. I'm going to skip this step because I'm already got an account, like I say, so I don't need them to send me optimization tips and so on. We'll say skip step. And setup is complete. Now we can create our payment form. So we'll create a payment form. And this will then take us into the WP All Pay. So now we can configure everything. We're set up with Stripe. We can choose what kind of payment options we want to take. So we can choose a display name and an identifier. We'll come back to that in a moment. But we can set up one-time payments, subscriptions, donations, and save card details. There's an inline and a checkout option. So for this example, let's just call this donation form, And again, we'll leave that as donation for the identifier. We're going to set this to be a donation. And we're going to leave the form layout as inline so things can stretch a little bit as they may need to. So we'll say create and edit the form. So the form has now been created and we can then set up some additional options here. So the behavior after successful payment, what you want to do, show a confirmation message or redirect to a thank you page or a custom URL. We'll leave a confirmation message, but you can, like I say, set this up to go to a custom page and so on. So it's up to you. Go to your payment option, you can choose what you want to work in. I'll leave this set as US dollars. You've got suggested donation amounts, which you can easily edit. So let's just say we want to get rid of the $1 and the $2, and we'll stick with the 5, 10, and so on. You can add additional ones in, a minimum donation amount, whether this is going to be frequency. So you can set up a one-time, weekly, monthly, annual, whatever you want. So let's say this is a one-time and a monthly and an annual, so they get to choose. Do you want to generate an invoice? We'll say yes, just in case there's a business doing it. And you can see we've got transaction details here. And we can insert tokens. And these are kind of little short codes that reference information from the details that is supplied as part of the donation form. So things like the name, customer's name, email address, and so on. So if you want to customize this, you absolutely can do. I'm going to leave it as it is for now, though. I don't want to sort of focus too heavily on this plugin. If you want to customize the appearance, you can do inside here as well. So you've got various different layers of stripe, night, flat, and so on. Global, local settings, you kind of get the idea of what you can do here. You can customize this how you want. Card input fields, you can see we can set that up as well. Your form fields then, if you want to customize form fields, you want to add additional fields in, you can do. You can add in reCAPTCHA. Terms of service checkbox, you can say, yeah, we want to make sure that they agree to that. So you can put a link and everything inside here. Any custom data, your billing address, shipping address, well, there's no shipping, but we do want billing. Configure any of the other options as you see fit. Come to email notifications, and you can specify whether you want to send out donation emails, so a receipt from Stripe and so on. Set that again as you see fit. And you finally have webhooks, should you want to use those and tap into other tools that can access webhooks and use that data. Let's hit Save Changes. So we've now created our form. So now all you need to do is take the short code, insert that into the page where you want the form to appear, and we end up with something like this. As you can see, there's our donation amounts, the 5 through to 100, whether it's one time, monthly, or annual. They can drop in the email address and so on, choose how they want to pay, etc., etc., etc. And you see it tells us we're in test mode at the moment, and then they can hit donate once they finish. So you can test this out now, make sure it connects up to Stripe correctly, and everything is working as you would expect it to. But that's how easy it is to create a donation and include that as part of your overall website. So now we've seen how to do that and how to install Neve. Let's take a look at some of the options that Neve gives us to customize the various different aspects of our design, and also take a look at some of the additional features that it adds in to Elementor if you use the Elementor option. If you use in the Gutenberg option, there are some additional options there as well, but we're going to use Elementor for our example. So let's come into our pages section, and as you can see, all the pages part of our site have already been created. Now, I want to point out we are only using the free version of Elementor here. We're not using the Pro version, but there are various different options we have inside Neve Pro that mean we can do a lot of Pro-based things from Elementor, but use the Neve integration. I'll show you those in a moment. Let's open up the home page. Let's edit this with Elementor. So now if we look down the left-hand side, we've got this Neve Pro add-on widgets. These are additional elements that we can use inside Elementor in the free version and alongside Pro if you want to upgrade to Pro. And these give us some more options, including some that are specific to working inside Neve itself. So for example, this custom layout option allows us to create kind of template elements that we can inject into our design should we want to. And this works in various different ways, and we can use it in a couple of different ways. I'll show you that in a moment, how easy it is to start using these. But like I say, alongside all the different layout options you have as part of a default Elementor setup, you also have these additional options here should you want to use them. Now, before we take a look at those custom layers, I want to go into the customizer, the native customizer inside WordPress, because there's a lot of options here that allow us to customize how our site looks, things like our header, our footer, our blog pages, those kinds of things. So you can customize this way beyond what you start off with any of these starter sites. Let's take a quick look at some of the options. I'm not going to go through every exhaustive option because there are an awful lot to choose from. Let's take a look at some of the key ones that I think are most important. Now, first up, when we installed our site and we chose our starter site, we had a selection of different fonts and colors that we could pick and choose from. And they were fine as a starting point, but obviously you're probably going to want to change those to get your unique colors in here. So inside the actual customizer itself, we come into global, you'll see we've got colors and background. And you can see we've got those base options that we saw earlier on. So you could easily choose between these ones and kind of flip around and have a little look what these look like a dark mode, for example. But you can also come in and customize the colors completely. So we've got this primary accent. We may say we want this to be a blue color. Let's change that to blue. Now blue has been picked up. So we're customizing these colors, like our secondary color or extra color. Let's make that a kind of lighter blue. There we go. So now we've got our custom colors starting to be created and everything will update accordingly. If you want to add in additional custom colors, you absolutely can do. So let's add a custom color here. You can see we can rename this. We'll call it my custom color and we'll hit save. And now we'll click and we can choose a color from here. So let's go and choose a purple color like so. And now we have our own custom colors that we can reference inside our design. So adding colors, super easy. And as you can see, we've got a lot more options in here. Things like our container, so we can set the width of our container for our content, where it's contained, whether you want to have it sort of just a set size and you have a background image or color, you can kind of do all that here. You can set your pages inside here, so we can set a normal page or a cover page. You can disable the title, so you can tweak this to get exact look that you want. If we come into our blog, for example, now we can customize the blog. So if we come in and take a look at, for example, our news section, so inside here, we can now customize the way this actually looks. As you can see, we've got a selection of different sidebar layouts. If you are using sidebars, you can use those here. You can also choose between different card layouts. So at the moment, we're looking at the grid, which looks pretty cool, but you can easily change that to covers, or we can go to a list. Let's put it back to grid. I think that looks quite nice. You can then customize other aspects of this, the number of columns. So we can say maybe we want to have 2 or 4. Let's set it back to 3. I think that looks the best. And then you can control this by the number of posts per page, whether you want to enable a masonry grid layout. You can then control how the cards actually look. So at the moment, we've got the title, a meta, the thumbnail, and the excerpt set in that particular order. But you could easily just drag these around to get exactly what you want. You can also drop these down and change like the aspect ratio with the thumbnail, a hover effect. So for example, you may want to have a little zoom effect. So now when we hover over, we get the zoom effect. You may want to just hide this completely by using the little visibility icon. That now becomes invisible. Switch it back on, reorder it. And things like the title and meta, we can expand this out. You can see we can choose other options. So show last updated date, the author avatar, and so on. So we can customize all the different aspects of this. You've also then got the post meta order. So you can see we've got additional options here for the author, comments, category, and so on. You can disable the title and you can configure the post navigation. You can also come into the design side of things and you can customize different things inside here. So the padding for the content, the card box shadow, the post title, so just the font size and everything. So if you want to override anything set as default across the entire site, you can do that inside here underneath the options for the actual design. Come back out of this. Let's go and take a look at one of these actual posts. And now we can come to the single post and we can customize the look of this. So we can say we may want to put a cover. So the image now spans the entire top, and the same kind of thing. Again, we've got all the different options here we can show and hide if we want to. So we may want to sort of put the thumbnail in, where you could show and hide the thumbnail, tags, comments, all those kinds of good things. So it's very easy to customize each aspect of this to get what you want out of it and not specifically what you start off with. Now on top of that, we've got a lot more options. For example, if we want to customize the header and footer, two of the main areas on your site that there's probably good reason to customize these, we have a header and footer builder. So let's come into the header section, and inside here, you can see that now opens up the header builder. We can switch between the desktop and the mobile. And if we take a look at the way this is set up, it's a very simple, logical setup. We've got 3 potential rows of information. Currently, we're only using the middle one, and we've got the logo, which you can see here. We then got the navigation, and we've got a button, which is our donate button. But you could easily change these around. So we can change the order of these. You can click the little cog icon to come in and edit this, and you can see that now updates. So we could put a link in there, change the text, adjust the layout, adjust the style, customize how the button looks. We can come into our primary menu, do the same thing again. We can click on that. We can choose the menu we want to use, the layout, the style. So we can customize all the different aspects of this. We may want to sort of set it like so. And then we hover over, we get this kind of hover effect. You can change the colors of this. So the active item color, the item hover. So let's set this to be using one of our global colors, like our secondary accent. And now when we hover over, we get that accent color being used. So you can see it's very easy to just come in here and customize exactly what's going on. You can then switch to your mobile view and you can adjust this based upon what you want to show here. Go back to desktop, you can click on the little cog icon and that will now affect the entire row. So you can say you're going to stick this to the top, show only on scroll, how you want to display it, whether it's full width contained, full width or contained. You get the idea. You can set the styling inside here. So there's so many different options that make customizing this incredibly simple. And that is not the limit to the options we've got. Let's come back out of here and you can see we've got the header main, which is what we've just been editing, the header bottom, which is this bottom section. You've then got the header top, sidebars, header presets. So if you want to choose a specific layout, you could do just that. So let's say we want to have something like this. Click on it. We now have that customized. You want to change it completely to one like this? Not a problem. Select it. We've changed it. And then you can go in and you can customize it even further. Let's come back out of here and you'll see we've got a load of available components which we can simply add in. So let's say we want to add a search to this sort of middle section. Well, all we need to do is find the search option. We'll drag that down into place. And then you can click to customize it and you can customize whatever you want. So you can see we want to remove these, reorder them. You can absolutely do that. So now our search is at the end. If you want to get rid of it, click the little X and it is gone. And the same thing goes for any of the other sections. So you want to add things like social media in, which is the social icons. We'll drag those to the top right-hand side. There's our social icons, which again, we can click the little cog icon and we can adjust what's going to show up on there. And we can also come in and choose the option for the entire row itself, the menu row, and you can customize the style of this. So we may want to set the background color to be a different color, or set an image. It's up to you. Use our global colors. Let's set it to something really ugly like our purple color. And man, that looks absolutely terrible. But you see how easy it is to set up. Let's actually make it look a little bit better. Let's go with the dark background. There we go. That looks a lot nicer. So you can see just how easy it is. We don't even have to set things on and off. Want to get rid of it? Click the X. They're gone. And so does the little menu section at the top. All done. Hit publish. And we've now customized things the way that we want. And the same thing goes for the footer. We can come back out of here, jump into the footer section, and you can do all the same things inside the footer. You can see this is a pre-built section, but we can customize any aspect of this that we see fit. Layout, content, information inside there, copyright, text, all those kinds of good things, totally editable inside here. And finally, if you want to update and change the typography, you can simply come to the typography section. And inside here, we've got font presets. So we can easily just pick and choose from these and say, let's try one out and see what it looks like. What does this one look like? Yeah, not so fast. What about this one? Yeah, that looks better. Come into any of the pages, come to the home page, for example, and see what it looks like there. And if we're happy with it, we can save it. If we want to come back out of this, we can come back out, and you've got other options inside here. So we can come into general, and we can customize the font family inside here, additional font variants, font size, line height, using M's, pixels, rems, all the different options are here to make it super easy. And the same thing then goes for our headings. We can then customize our H1 through 6 to anything that we want to set up inside here. So if you are the kind of person that has no real design experience and you don't know what font works well with another font, just use one of these presets. If you want to come in and customize every aspect of it, you can do that as well. So you've seen how the customizer easily allows us to customize the look and feel of our site. But what about if we want to add in specific pieces of content that we've got control over into various different parts of our site? That's where the custom layouts option comes in super handy. Let's come in and choose that from the Neve menu. And you can see there's a couple already created. Let's create one of our own. Let's add a new layout. And then we've got to choose what kind of layout is it. Is it a header? Do we want something inside the content? Is it a footer? A content type like a single page or an archive, so we can create custom templates to handle that information? Or we've got special cases like 404 pages and custom hooks and so on. Let's keep this really simple and say we want to insert a sort of little banner ad or something into the flow of our actual content inside our blog posts. What we're going to do is we're going to choose the inside content option. We'll choose to add a layout, and that'll take us in then to the editor of our choice. At the moment, we're inside Gutenberg. If you wanted to use this inside Elementor, you absolutely could. So let's just call this banner advert, and just for ease, let's just keep it to working inside Gutenberg. So we're just going to add an image in, nothing more than that, something super simple, just to demonstrate how this works. So we'll add an image, we'll choose our media library, we'll select this image, and choose it. So now we've created our banner ad, but at the moment it doesn't do anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into our custom layout option, and inside here we can set the custom layout settings. Let's open these up and we can choose some options. Now based upon what you choose inside here, now we chose the inside content, and all those options we saw at the first sort of pop-up screen are here. So if you want to change your mind, you can come in and you can change your mind. Let's keep this inside content. You can set an expiration date if this was something that was time sensitive. You can set that here. We'll leave it as it is. And then you can choose to display this after a certain number of headings or after a certain number of blocks. So let's say we want to put this after the first 2 blocks or 2 paragraphs, for example. So now we need to set the conditional logic. In other words, where this is going to be used. So let's just choose the option, and as you can see, we've got posts, pages, archives, and users to pick and choose from. For our example, we want to use post type, and we're going to simply say is equal to, and we're going to drop this down and select posts. Now, obviously, if you had additional custom post types inside here, using something like advanced custom fields, metabox, etc., they would also be listed, so you could use those in that particular context as well. What we're going to do now is you can see we've got some available magic tags. So if we wanted to tag in things like the date, the author, categories, and so on, we could use those as magic tags to be able to pull in dynamic data. And all we're going to do now is click on publish. And we've now created our custom layout, told it where we want to use it. So let's check it out and see if it's doing what we expect. So let's go take a look at one of our posts. Let's use this one. As you can see, after 2 blocks, we now have our banner ad. That's how easy it is, but you can obviously use this in so many different places. You can set it to be headers, footers, like I say, archive templates, and so on. Gives you a lot of flexibility in adding in custom data, custom information throughout your entire site, wherever you want to display it. Now, you also have additional options that allow you to customize your posts and so on the post-by-post basis. So you have your global catch-all that are set up inside the customizer, but you can override those on an instance-by-instance basis. So when you're editing a post, for example, you've got the Neve menu, which if you click on that, that opens up the Neve options. And as you can see, we've got things like post layout, post title, the different elements, and so on. So if you want to change things over from the default value set in the customizer, you can set this to have none, for example, with the sidebar, a left sidebar, right sidebar. You can set whether the container default, contained, full width, create a custom width itself if you want to, set your title alignment, whether you show the author avatar, reading time, and what elements are and aren't displayed. And you'll also disable the header and footer inside here. So you can customize the various different options for your post layouts on a post-by-post basis. So this gives you more flexibility when you're creating content and you have a use case that falls outside the kind of global catch-all. So the final thing I want to demonstrate is how we can enable content restriction to parts of our site. So what you need to do is come into the settings section under your dashboard, and you'll see enable content restriction. Let's set this to be posts, and now that will make it available to us so we can restrict access to posts. Let's go and take a look. What we're going to do is come into one of our posts, and we now have a new option called content restriction. If we open this up, we have 3 different options we can use. Restrict accept user roles, accept allowed users, and with a password. So for example, if we enable the user roles, we can choose what user role we want to apply to. For example, subscriber. That's now added in. Or you can easily come in and say you want to have allowed users and then search for a specific user. Or finally, you can expect a password and then drop the password you want to associate with it. So it's all very simple to set up the content restrictions inside sort of editor itself. Really simple and easy to use. So that in a nutshell is some of the key features available to you inside Neve and Neve Pro, and also how we can use the WP Full Pay plugin to easily add donation and payment options in through Stripe. Hopefully you found this video useful, and as always, all applicable links are in the description down below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.